Om Shanti. Taking in some nice deep breaths into my belly, slow and natural. I allow any tension that's in my body to release. As I inhale and exhale, I allow any stress of the day to melt away. And through this conscious breathing and relaxing, I become fully present here, this time, this meditation, this remembering the spiritual self is a gift I am giving to myself tonight. In this moment, it's a gift of upliftment, a gift of peace and connection. As I turn within, I connect to the light that I am. I connect to the truth that I am. I connect to my heart, which is full of pure love and kindness. I, this spiritual being, this eternal light, am a generous and benevolent being. I recognize the joy within me when I have the chance to share and give love. And this joy, this happiness that comes in the soul, that makes me dance, this giving and receiving of pure love, it also comes in the form of giving and receiving this love with God, with the highest on high, pure energy in this universe. As I connect to my own light within the soul, it becomes easy to connect with God's light, with God's love. That one is the ocean of love. That one loves me unconditionally. And that pure love of God, it heals me. It embraces me. It lifts me up and fills me up. It is like a refreshing rain of love, a mist of love, a pure river of love. This light, this love of God, it illuminates me. It transforms me. It helps me to transcend and ascend into my highest potential. And as this light, this rain of love of God enters the soul, the soul begins to blossom like a beautiful rose. All the potential that is within, all the fragrance of virtues, divine qualities, they permeate the atmosphere. As the flower of the soul blossoms in the light and the love of God, I allow this light and this love to enter every cell of this body, to permeate my mind, to fill up my heart, to raise my vibration and energy. And I feel an immense gratitude for these moments of connection, so pure, so simple, benevolent, reminding me of who I really am, reminding me that I am loved. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, everyone. Welcome to this beautiful event. In fact, this is our first celebration for this year. Our um, Peace Day celebration that we're doing for this year, 2021. And for those who are, for the first time, you're attending program of our organization. So just to give you a brief introduction about the organization, we are called Brahma Kumaris. It's a world spiritual organization, and it was founded in India in 1937, and the founder's name was Dada Lake Raj, and he was lovingly called as Brahma Baba, and he was a famous diamond merchant. He was also son of a village school teacher. He was basically a self-made man, and in his during his age of retirement, he received a series of visions that changed his life, and how this organization started back in India in 1937. And so today we are actually going to celebrate his life. He left his body on January 18, 1969. And every year on 18th of January, in all the Brahma Kumari centers, we have about 9,000 centers in 140 countries. We celebrate 18 January as a peace day. It's a day of complete silence, a day of meditation. In fact, we call it tapasya. Tapasya means intense, concentrated meditation that all the centers we observe on 18th of January. And following that, all the centers, we organize a public event to celebrate his life. So today in this program, we're gonna show you about his life and how we can be inspired through his life, through his character, through his virtues. And so next what we are going to do is we're going to watch a video of his life, and you'll understand more through that video. So let's watch his video.
It was the 1800s, and the world was filled with change. The mutiny by the Bengal Army was suppressed, and Britain took over direct government of India from the East India Company. Mahatma Gandhi still lived in South Africa, and Rabindranath Tagore had not yet written Gitanjali. In America, the first telephone message was transmitted, and in Britain, the first electric light was turned on. Charles Darwin published Origin of the Species, and the theory of evolution was born. The Civil War ended in America, and slavery was outlawed. Wilhelm of Prussia was proclaimed Emperor of Germany. In Sindh, India, a son was born to the Kripalani family. He was named Lek Raj, and he was an ordinary boy. As the years passed, he grew straight and strong, this son of a schoolmaster. In time, he began a business and married and had children of his own. But still, he was an ordinary man. He was a good man, a kind man, an honorable man, but an ordinary man. And the light touched him and entered his mind. Now his mind was already fine and worked well, but when the light came, he saw that there were shadows in the corners, things left there to think about another tomorrow, things unresolved. matters saved for a day when he had time. But he found he couldn't wait until there was time, for this was not a light he could close his eyes against. This light was inside him and had taken up residence. Eviction was not possible. Not that he really wanted to be without the light, but now and then it would probably have been more comfortable. It did, after all, uncover him to himself. And the light lay in front of his mind like a pathway, or a doorway, or a destination. Sometimes it was barely there, only visible if he concentrated, and he taught himself to keep it where he could see it. Sometimes it filled him until it shone out through his eyes, and others began to sit near him to see what would happen. They knew that something would. And for a while he thought the light was him, was somehow his own essence. But in time he learned that the light was not his, though he had one of his own. This light was other, and it came from some distant place where the rules of physics hung balanced, and time meant something else entirely. And he expected it to be indifferent, but it wasn't. He expected it to be hard with knowledge, but it wasn't. He expected it to be implausible and unreachable and somehow threatening, but it wasn't, and it wasn't, and it wasn't. But it did change him. It laid new understanding gently in his mind, and he saw things he never thought he'd see. He learned about eternity and immortality and consciousness. Things that had seemed important no longer mattered, and he gave away his old life and the things that went with it. Those who waited with him to see what would happen knew this was a chance that fate had given them. He spoke of what the light showed him, and they listened. And some of them changed their days so they could listen. For some, there were obstacles and barriers and difficulties, but they overcame them all, and untangling themselves from the expectations of custom, they came. After all, fate was calling. This was an age when women in that land were made less, and decisions about living were never theirs. And so, from among the ones who came with him, he gave administration into the hands of the women. This was a balance rarely seen in those days and in that place. And so they stayed together, and they were held well and safely for more than a score of years, and they learned how to live. They practiced putting matters of the light first, and matters of the world second. And in time, there was no longer difference to be seen between the two. But winds of change were blowing, and in the way of the world in that time, there was the dissension of boundaries and countries and ownership. Anger and chaos had come to the land, and still they stayed, protected somehow. But when change finally filled the land and closed the door to possibility, they quietly left that place. 3 had become 300, and they settled on a mountain top. And the mountain held them safely, for years still being counted. Every day they listened, and in between as well, and what they learned filled the air they moved through, until it became time itself for them. And time upon time, he told them that what he spoke about came from the light, and not from him. And again he would tell them, and 1,000 times 1,000, until they reached out their own minds and made their hearts available. The light sculpted his thoughts and cleaned away the last shadows, and what he learned, he taught. And the most important of all of the jewels that fell first into his mind and then into their hands was connection with the light. And that was the heart of the matter. Now time passed as it does, and ones who had been very young were now less so. But in all that time, they never thought to leave the mountain. But they did, and it was he himself who sent them. There were only 1 or 2 at first, and they were completely untried in the world outside of their world. They had lived most of their years with signposts and secrets uncovered by the light. This was their guide and their template for living. They understood now, without any doubt, that the light was a separate thing from him. It was the song, and he was the singer. They knew that he stood, open-handed and in between, to sing them the song and make the connection visible and available and theirs. Still, as the years passed, he had become more like the light, his own light becoming at once brighter and softer. And they loved him. They didn't want to go. But it was the beginning of something unimaginable to them in that time and in that place. They understood that if they didn't give what they had been given, it would be as though they had nothing. They knew now that, young and unworldly as they were the ones to begin, the ones who must walk into the lives of others, as he had walked into theirs, the emissaries of the light. They went to places of important papers and the men who understood them. They went empty-handed, and they waited on seats that were bigger than they were themselves. The ones they came to see had many appointments, but no one sent them away. Everyone thought that by the end of the day they would simply not be there. People thought they would be frightened because they were young. People thought they would be intimidated because they were innocent. People thought they could be ignored because they were insignificant. But by the end of the day, the young ones seemed older somehow than the people had thought. They didn't seem intimidated, though the chairs they sat in were much too big. And they had waited, undaunted and patient, until they no longer seemed insignificant. And they had such things to say. When they spoke, their eyes were a place where people saw themselves, whole and wonderful. For some who half remembered their own reflection, awareness flew back into their own eyes. For some, it was the first time they had ever seen themselves clear. Some who listened and listened again offered a dwelling, or a room, or a hall. Stay, they said, or come. If it is known that you are here, there will be others who come and listen. And so they went to towns and villages and cities across that land, and spoke of what they knew in a dwelling, or a room, or a hall. In ones and twos they stayed in those places, and, like he had done, they would tell the people who came that what they spoke about came from the light. For still, the most important of all the jewels was connection with the light. That was still the heart of the matter. As often as they could, they went back to the mountain, for some had stayed there, and others had joined them, and he was there. Sometimes, with distance in his eyes, he would tell them of times to come, of people whose names had not even been written yet, in far places they had never seen, where strange language was spoken. And they would smile with him, because they knew he always spoke truth. But in their secret hearts, they were sure it would be others who traveled to those places, to speak to those people. Surely it would not be them, for such things were still a dream of the future. Now more time passed, as it does, and they had become many in that land, and he was always on the mountain in those years. More and more he stayed inside himself, and the light stayed with him. He spoke less now, but love and eternity stood wordless in his eyes. His skin paper thin, and his step slower with age, there came a day when he didn't come out of the room he slept in. He had left his body behind. They came from all over the land. They came to the mountain. They carried their hearts carefully, for fear they would break. They had never thought of a time without him. But losing him never meant they lost the light, for the light was separate and would never finish, any more than time itself would stop. And still, they had a pledge to keep. So wherever they went, they told what they knew, and people came to hear the secrets of time and the reasons for things. And it happened, as it usually does, that the future folded itself into the present, and what he had said in those long past days on the mountain became real. One of them, who had been with him on the mountain when he spoke of the future, turned around in time and found that she had indeed come to a far place where strange language was spoken. And when she spoke to the people there, she had someone with her who changed her language into theirs so they could understand each other. So it began in this new place. Many came, attracted as a magnet is to a lodestar by hearing about the light. And in this land, they called the light by a different word, and sometimes two or three. But it was all only one, for the light is one. It is always and ever only one. And one it will be called here until the end of this, for then it belongs to all, and names of different language can lie quiet for a while. Now in time and in the way of things, people told people who told people of what they were hearing, and how the look in the eyes of the ones who spoke lifted their hearts. Soon there were places opened so that people could come back, and back again. And when there were too many people, more places were found. And so things grew and multiplied. Time carried them across mountains and oceans to places they had never seen. And the winds of destiny took them to another new land, and then another, and another. There were many more than 300 now, and some of them had never even seen the mountain. They had been born in other lands, speaking other language. They listened to stories of the mountain and the one who had left his body behind, who had loved them so much, even before they were born, and their hearts flew. They would sit, with distance in their eyes and one in their minds. This most important thing was done in silence. Their doors were always open to anyone who cared to listen, and people of all kinds came. Sometimes they would take a large public place and hundreds would come, or even thousands. And so, time has turned again, and it is now. The world is a strange and wonderful place in this age. It is filled with fantastic invention and amazing discovery. It is dimmed by fear and want and anger, and brightened by courage and hope and love. It is full. There is darkness, but it is always shot through with light. And this was light. They brought it with them. They gave it away. People took it into their homes and families, and some of them caught light from one another. Some even stumbled into it like an afterthought, or an accident, or a blessing. Some were touched and changed their lives. Some were touched and changed life for other people. And in the way of the world, they organized it and ordered it and smoothed the edges to make it available and familiar. They focused it on what the world needed and named it things that stirred the heart. Programs were created that covered large parts of the globe, and they were as varied as the people who created them. Some collected peace and reignited values. Others celebrated youth, and still others honored age. There were programs that offered freedom of mind to those who had no freedom, and others that joined land to land in cooperation. A manifesto was drawn from the hearts of people, a plan for peace and happiness and equality. And they came together from far places. They were politicians and artists and business people. They were physicians and spiritual leaders and educators. They were women and they were men and they were every color a human being can be. They came out of love for the world and its people. They came because they heard time calling. They came. Did he know how many people would be touched when he saw the future that day on the mountain so long ago? And how many people are still to come? If we hold the laws of physics up to the light, is it like critical mass? For if it is, and the law holds true, the day may come when just one more person is needed. Just one more soul to tip the balance. One more to make the last weight on the scales that measure light against dark. In that instant, the world could change. And it doesn't have to be someone wealthy and influential. It doesn't have to be someone famous or revered. It doesn't have to be a world leader or the head of a religion. It just has to be someone. time never stops turning, and the light never ceases. And light attracts light. It comes from many places, from many people. Like a rainbow, it is made of all the colors that exist in the human heart. The colors of generosity and care for the world. The colors of open hands and open hearts. The colors of faith of all kinds. And as time stretches from the past into now, there are sometimes the questions of how and what and why. And so a story was written about a journey that began so long ago in a far distant land, a journey you have now become part of, and you hold it now in your hands. And many still cross the sea and come to that same mountain. Some things have changed. Some things are always and ever the same. It is love for one. It was always that.
So this is our Brahma Baba. A guru that we look up to and feel it is far-fetched, but he's like a father that we want to embrace, that we want to follow, that we want to become like him. And he showed through his life how even at this point of time, in this point of circumstantial world, that we can still live with virtues and dignity, and we can still inspire others, no matter how negative vibrations there are in this world, or we can be the light. It's such an inspiration for all of us. And I like to introduce this soul who is definitely inspired deeply by Brahma Baba, by his teachings, and how this spiritual practice, the spiritual path, in fact, moved her from India to London, now to US. And that's our center coordinator, our Los Angeles Brahma Kumaris center coordinator, Sister Geeta. We lovingly call her as Geeta Ben. Ben really means sister. So I like to invite Geeta Ben for her to share her personal experience and what made her to be so solid and so confident of the practice that she's having and how she's still living her life based on these teachings. Gitaben, welcome.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti is a greetings of peace. Om means I, the soul, and Shanti means peace. Imagine someone whose thoughts, words, and actions stand from a place of a pure feeling and truth. That person can become an angel. And that the day one, when I went to the center where Brahma Kumari ashram was in India. And as soon as I enter in the room, my eyes fall on Brahma Baba's eye. And that was a inner voice came out, that child, what you want is here. There was no any thought about to become spiritual or to dedicate the life, anything, no searching, nothing. But then again, the voice appear, what child you want? And my inner reply was that I don't want anything. I have everything. Because that time it was last year, university, good educations, good family. Everything was like, I felt everything was good. But somehow that moment was such a magical moment in my journey that day till now, God's grace that he makes me constant moving forward. I read a couple of times Brahma Baba's life story, and whenever I was reading, it was inspiring me, it was feeling live that I was there during that time. But in this birth, I was completely like kinds of different world. But since I started the practice of meditation and following the discipline of Raj Yoga, I see the tremendous amount of changing. And it was changing, the feeling limited into unlimited. Only was like more love towards the family, but then more practice about vision change, that feeling change. And what I learned from Baba that time, that no matter what type of the child comes in front of Baba, Baba never saw the caste, the color, the religion, or the culture. And he was very sweetly telling in a beautiful word in Hindi called bache, means my child. So instantly, the child like feel belonging. And that was a true love, what people in the world is searching of. And I experiencing that moment also, that there is something here which makes me belong to him. And that what I learned, that when your connection is with the Supreme Being, Divine Being, and what you experience in your life, your barrier breaks and you become unlimited. Whoever comes in front of you, they are like God's child. Also experience that how in Brahma Baba's life, it was 19, like we can say 30s and 40s. So much social, religious, so much strong belief system was there. And to come out from that and become a spiritual, it was a big movement. So I just was experiencing that time when I was practicing, that whoever comes in front of me, no matter what culture, that just see as them as a point of light and the child of Supreme. You can see how much you experience, like you exchange the true love from each other. I noticed what Baba was teaching. It was not just like a teaching, but also applying in the practical life. What the Supreme Being was sharing from his mouth, he first thing put in a practice, and then afterwards he was sharing with the children also. So seeing that how what we think, what we speak, what we perform actions can be like equal, then you don't have to think, but you just like share your feeling, and that feeling is very true. So was experiencing that how Baba was practical. He never, if even the children, imagine 300, sisters was staying with Baba, and so many kinds of different nature, different liking, different sanskaras, but to bring them into oneness, Baba became a practical, and he became a good example that nobody can complain, and then how they can use their humility, mold their nature, and work on that nature internally, and how they can present externally. It was challenging in my physical world, because being born as a Indian culture, there was many restrictions for the girls. But I cannot say anybody can blame or fault about that they was strict on my life. But I can experience about that. There is nothing impossible in our life. The phrase is that when there is a will, there is always the ways there. So if you have the determined thought, if you are clear what you like to be or what you want to be, and keeping that connections with the Supreme, there naturally your bondage will cut off, and you can see the light, you can see the path is very clear. And that's what I learned, that early meditations, that time is a very pure time. The mind never make any excuses. I have this work, or I have that work, I have to call, or nothing, but it goes special time. And when I learn about that how Baba used to meditate very early time, and that was a special appointment with the divine being, that nobody can interfere, nobody can take your time. And so every day during that time, I was meditating early in the morning and spreading the vibrations to all the family, that they cannot come in my journey in the form of become a barrier, and how openly they accept what I'm doing, they learn what I'm experiencing. And that's way Brahma Baba became such a kind of ideal example in front of me. More the time passed by, Baba always was teaching to those seniors, sisters, that you can never say no for any like the service. And here we used to use more our mind, and sometimes you liking something to do, and sometimes you don't like to do certain things. But coming and practicing about this Raj Yoga meditation, I just felt in the life there is always one time opportunity comes, whatever the spiritual service you receive, how you can say yes please, or yes, and you can see how you can make your fortune. But yes, sometimes the mind says it is not the right time. I have to say no. But then that is also, you can see where to really can express your feeling, and where you can really can think about how I can deal this my situation. So what I learned from Baba also, that there is a nothing impossible. Everything is possible if you want to do it. Again, I just felt that sometimes that worries comes, what will happen? And that was also learned from Baba, that whatever happen, child, is always benefactor, always something to learn, something to experience, and something you have to go beyond, or sometimes you have to let go. So it was a very practical thing, and that's why how Brahma Baba not only became the father of Brahma Kumaris, but because of his unlimited belonging, accepting, so he became a father of humanity. Whoever comes, they can experience, this is like my father. So learn from Baba how to go unlimited, because we played our part with so many souls, and each souls are God's child. And being the child of that Supreme, how my visions become equal for everybody. And that's what we learn from Baba, that no matter what type of children comes in front of, Baba always give them the experience of belonging. Many challenges came in front of Baba also, but Baba always says, whose work, whose service I'm doing, he's the one who is inspiring me to do, and I'm an instrument. So always Baba experienced himself that he was an instrument, and Supreme Being is the one who is inspiring me to do it. So being a human being, how we can keep our intellect with always with Supreme, and go into that silence mode and check within yourself what he's inspiring you to do. And when you have these silence connections with him and listening to him, you can really can have inspirations that how beautifully easy way he's doing that service through you. So that was more underlining that I'm the instrument, and he's the one, the Supreme Being is the one who is Karan Karavanar, means who is the one who's inspiring me to perform these actions. You all saw that Brahma Baba's life story from the beginning to the end part. And very end part, what I took from Baba's these three words, that incorporeal being, because when Brahma Baba was at the last time in his life's journey, he never told in advance the children that, okay, today I'm leaving. But very beautifully, he always thought about their children's welfare. So that day, 18 January 1969, before actually the class was happening evening time, and then afterward had the dinner. But that day, he knew that let's first we can have dinner, and then afterwards we have a class. If something like Baba was leaving the body that time, if children had a class first, then afterwards they don't had a dinner. So Baba, first thing, Baba was really taking care of the children so well. And at the end of the class, Baba spoke 3 words in a form of the blessings to the children. And that also, it was really nice if we can practice. It was so practical. In the mind, we had to experience incorporeal. Beautiful Hindi word is called nirakari, that you are incorporeal soul. So your whatever thoughts comes in your mind, be in that state of incorporeal, then your stage becomes steady, unshakable, immovable, because you are remain in that incorporeal stage. Second word, what Baba spoke about, nir ahankari, means egoless. In words, we have to be egoless. Let the humility get more visible. Third word was nirvikari, means viceless. In our actions, how we can make ourselves viceless. So then there is no any ego comes in our actions, no our any types of particular vice comes in our journey, and how you can really apply these 3 words in your day-to-day life. It's not one time I practice and I become, but every day I have to come into the consciousness of these beautiful words. And at the end, what I had to learn, what I learned from Brahma Baba, that what I had to become. Because it's a very inspiring, and also like share with you that whenever you have opportunity, please read this book, Adi Dev, that Brahma Baba's life story. And while you are reading that, you can also have so much inspirations about that how our inner life should be, because God has given so many beautiful things in form of virtues, in form of divine powers, in form of our speciality, that when I can use my third eye in the form of understanding, knowledge, and wisdom, that when I step in, understand who am I step in whom I belong to, step in what is my purpose and goal of my this life. And when you started to really experience, then you can see that what I had to become, and to come close to God, to be completely transparent instrument. And that was Brahma Baba's life, was completely transparent, no any kinds of like hiding. It's such a truth, honesty, and the unconditional love was there. So from up above, stay in light, take the light, and be the light. So you can join with me for 3 times. We all can chant the words Om Shanti and allow yourself to be in the light of peace, and take the light of peace from Supreme, and just you can experience yourself be in the light. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Gitaben. Thank you for that powerful, very deep felt experience that you have with Brahma Baba, and I'm sure you still do. And for a lot of us, Brahma Baba is a very, very deep inspiration for all of us. And when we see Brahma Baba's life, two things we learn is that the first, we learn that in order to tolerate, it doesn't mean that I'm weak, but it means when I tolerate, it means I would like to be in everyone's heart with a lot of love. The second thing that we learn from Brahma Baba is that only a very powerful soul can give love and can also be humble. The Brahma Baba has taught us that only when we are filled with love, that automatically we have the nature to give. And only when we humble down, that humility and that love can melt any hearts, any arrogance, any impurities. And so, of course, there are many aspects to learn from Brahma Baba, from his life, his character, his behavior, his thinking. And many of us, every year, we take inspirations on certain aspects of Brahma Baba that we would like to incorporate more in our life. And so we've gathered a few points, very simple points of Brahma Baba's virtues, you can say, or his character, you can say. And we're going to put it here up on the screen. And you can take an inspiration to choose any one of this for that personally you would like to practice this year. To take a determined thought that you would like to put any of this into practice this year. And Brahma Baba was such a simple soul. And you don't need to be a soul on a greater position, to have fame in order to make a difference. But just being so humble and simple, but with such great thinking and such, we in Hindi, we call bhavna. Bhavna means very deep feelings of respect and love and equality for every soul, and how he made differences in all of us. We have more than 1 million BKs around this world. Everyone are taking inspiration from Brahma Baba. And so we invite you, if you would like to be inspired to follow any of these points, take one point, start with one point. I'm sure everything seems so beautiful and you'd like to practice, but let's just start with one. And let's see. Take inspiration, be determined today, right now, this moment, and you'll be receiving a lot of strength from God, from the Supreme Light, to pursue this courageous endeavor that you'll be taking today. And I'd like to also make a short announcement for those of you who are new or you may not be in our emailing list. If you wish to be in our emailing list, if you wish to know what are all the other programs that we offer Raj Yoga meditation course in 4 languages, in English, Hindi, Spanish, and Tamil. If you like to participate in any of these workshops also that we offer every Saturday, you can go to our website. It's called bklosangeles.org. The calendar of events are there. But also if you wish to receive a reminder in your email, in your inbox, then you can subscribe to us in the website. That is a small announcement we would like to make to all of you and those who are who used to be in the emailing list or who have not been receiving emails from us. You can still subscribe as well. So maybe you'll be re-added into the mailing list. And next, we would end the session in this program with a very deep contemplative meditation, bringing us into this Vision 2021 that we can carry with us. And we also offer everyday meditation, Monday through Sunday, 6:30 to 7:30. We offer meditation on Zoom. For those of you who would like to participate in the meditation, you're more than welcome. In fact, when this program ends, we're going to move straight into the meditation. Will still continue up until 7:30. So whoever wish to stay back and participate in this meditation, you're more than welcome. And if any of you have any questions, you can either ask now or you can type it in the chat box. And we'll love to answer you, give you clarification. Is there anyone? I guess everyone is pretty clear. There's we always feel that whatever words that we hear now, it would touch us. But more than these words, maybe once this program ends, few months, few weeks down the line, you may forget all the words that are said now, but you will definitely remember the experience. And that is what this whole meditation practice is all about. Experience. Experiencing the self, the true self, and connecting with the Supreme. And so now we will move on to the meditation. And once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making this program wonderful with your presence, with your e-presence. And we'll continue meeting. Now we'll move into meditation. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. On this very special day, when we come together to celebrate peace, let me tap into the peace that is within me. I am a being of peace and love. Being peaceful and loving is the original state of I, the being. Being in the awareness of these virtues, I am able to have a big heart with which only blessings emerge for others. May you receive God's love. May you receive happiness. May you be victorious always. It is said, when there is love, there is understanding. So let me be an embodiment of solution, the one who focuses on the solution rather than the problem. I choose not to blame anyone, but to be a flame that provides light and guides others and the self during moments of darkness. With pure intentions to help others, I see myself feeling happiness, courage, and enthusiasm in others. As I fill them with virtues, I too start to experience a state of fullness and contentment within. This fullness allows me to be humble, giving regard to myself and others,
the awareness of peace and love within lets me be humble and with humility I start to see my own greatness. I am peace. I am love. I am valuable. Om Shanti.